Hello YouTubies and welcome to my new format which I intend to call XZane's Game Idea Talk from Indie to AAA. This format will be explained in the next minute as well as how these videos will be structured and why intentionally this exact way. Afterwards I will introduce today's very first idea, spoiler, it's called A Magician's World, and end with a little spoiler on next week's idea. This format will take place every week on Sunday, if enough ideas are at hand, because I come up with them myself, get inspired by games on the market, regardless of already done games or games still in development, and of course, by all the comments that you may make underneath this video and all the following ones. Because at the end, like, subscribe and comment at your heart's content, for as I intend to read it all and consider to use it into new ideas and therefore new videos in the future. The game idea talks are always referring to one specific game idea, which most likely is influenced by games that are out already, in progress, and also ideas on how to enhance existing games. Yet they will often contain the intention to step over boundaries, as there are certain borders that game developers do not seem to want to cross just yet. The most obvious of them is the technical border. But are we truly limited in making the games we want by our computers? With 4 to 8 core computers going up to 4 GHz, using about 16 gigs of RAM and ultimately using 2 GB or more of graphical GPU, while graphic cards run up to 2 GHz, it is hard to say that we cannot run a game by the dimensions of Daggerfall or the graphics of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild without stuttering and lags. In fact, games are made over multiple years and the hardware designers do not sleep, regardless of what you think of Nvidia's market decisions. Anyhow, games don't even need the highest hardware to be breathtaking, creative or inspiring. And not every game needs to run on virtual reality either. I mean, The Sims VR might be appealing while a SimCity VR most likely is not what players want, other than for demo-sailing modes. Also, very often we see interesting game ideas today brought into action by indie developers. Sometimes we have the delight to witness a Stardew Valley made by one person up to a Starbound made by a small team. However, we often see a No Man's Sky or the 150th horror jumpscare remix with teddy bears that is rather disappointing to say the very least. Not to mention, we do not see a Star Citizen yet either. Which shows an interesting issue. Video games are a huge market, currently reaching a market value and revenue of about $100 billion with no end at sight, as we make games for little kids to elders, no pun intended, towards the old lady let's playing the Elder Scrolls up to almost 300 episodes by now. From the Wii to VR, the Game Boy to Android gaming, video games are practically everywhere, to a point where it gets so silly that people run out of cars to catch Pokemon in a local park, leaving their car doors open and the keys in lock. But despite publishers mostly hiding the true cost of games, it is relatively safe to say that Destiny is #1 in production cost with about $500 million, most of it is marketing cost though. It is only a matter of time until we see a $1 billion budget game, regardless of it being Destiny 2, GTA 7 or Elder Scrolls 7. The amount of money made with games does allow for those scenarios to come up soon, and the implementation of Kickstarter early access and the likes of it allows for a well-based financing of small team development as well. Therefore, the market is big and grows, yet we wonder if enough money is spent into the market the right way. Producing one FIFA after another and the 200th version of Call of Duty may bring in revenue, but does it also develop the market? Does it truly make gaming today get better than gaming yesterday? Certainly, it brings money in, probably even more than in the past. But dear developers, why only stick to what you know? Is Nintendo the only company with the guts to do the unlikely? By no means I mean to offend the big publishers or let indie developers shine. We've seen enough lame and disappointing Kickstarter campaigns by now. But we have to ask ourselves, are games developing slower than they did a couple of decades ago? Certainly, the market is highly crowded with developing studios, publishers and marketing agents. But why do so many interesting and creative ideas slip underneath the radar? Why are many great ideas not coming into fruition? Are we working in the wrong areas? Do we need more gaming magazines and websites focusing away from the AAA marketing machinery? Well, we make a little start here. And quite frankly, that brings us to the first idea of this series. What you see on the screen is a screenshot of a game called Wayward. It looks rather simplistic, a pixel game without 3D AAA graphics. No orchestra-made music, no multi-million-dollar marketing with hundreds of developers all over the world, yet it could be fairly interesting to all those who played. Let me point it out, I did not play it, not yet that is, but I use it to show an idea to you that resembles the idea of our first game idea, A Magician's World. What is this world all about? Easily said, it's an RPG-like open-world game. Yes, I know, open world again. Don't we have enough so-called open worlds that are rather empty, repetitive and boring? No quests, no real options, and we can only do what the programmers allow us to do? Well, yes, I hear the frustration. From the forests to the long dark, we have seen these 3D, sometimes more, sometimes less well-made games that seem to be big but end up rather boring. No, we don't mention No Man's Sky a second time. But let us all remember the good old Daggerfall that most of us certainly never played, myself included. Hundreds of miles of a world that gave one the impression of a huge world with multiple things to do. But in fact, it repeated its same thing over and over, allowing you to fight, fulfill quests, trade a little, all over and over again. In fact, it is pretty much like Skyrim, just with lower resolution. Okay, that was harsh critic. But what makes A Magician's World different? Let us imagine an intro like that. 2 continents in the world. Your character, cute as a pixel and handmade, traveling on a ship and, oh surprise, through a storm landing on the wrong continent. Now let's also imagine that our character didn't know anything about magic, fairies or orcs because his continent has none of it. What a surprise for him, or her, to suddenly learn about it all. And that's one of the main ideas behind this game. You are not, I repeat, not the big hero. Not the skilled star. You don't progress beyond imagination within minutes or little quests. You don't know more than others, you can do more than others. In fact, you're just a little person, stranded on a new continent. Well, a huge continent. Because speaking about computers, we can run a game by the size of Daggerfall in such a cute pixel graphic with no problem. Okay, we may not simulate the whole continent, but even Minecraft came up with biomes to simulate the close environment, which should work fine in a pixelized game. Even if it is, listen good, procedurally generated. Yes, a game that is randomly made, just like Daggerfall. Oh no, will it be as empty and boring? Certainly not. Why? In a pixelized game like this, you don't have to worry about fancy graphics. The amount of development time being unleashed by focusing on making the most appealing pixel sprites, just look up DeviantArt for how quickly and pretty people make these out of nowhere and in no time, with a randomly yet carefully generated world will unleash all kinds of opportunities. A game like this just lives from the possibilities to explore it truly. From the mountains over to valleys, the seas and the snowy areas, the deserts and swamps and caves, a pixel game in an open world setting allows for a lot of interesting places, areas and features. But time freed is not just put into cute graphics and believable and immersive areas, because our little wannabe hero is here now. His clothes is on and his will at hand, with no certain task, no goal, no purpose and certainly no money in his pocket. Grab something to eat? Well, if you can catch something. Buying nice clothes? Earn the money first. Well, unless you steal it. And here's the thing, you can. Dig yourself into mountains and create your own little thievery hideout. If you want, why not? That is, if you learn how to dig into a mountain anyway. Because there's no such a thing as a skill tree or a status screen. In fact, all the skills you learn from digging over foraging or even fighting are not seen in status until you unlock them. Why? It is more realistic. I don't like the idea of having a couple of pages telling me what all I can learn. In fact, I like the idea of starting freshly and blank into a game, like this, exploring all the possibilities. I don't know if I can dig into mountains until I find a pickaxe, see an NPC doing so, or learn how to magically dig. And yes, this game should evolve heavily around magic options, but not in the old-fashioned I leveled up now I learn the magic fireball system. No sir, you learn all by hand. You supervise and, if you're skilled enough, learn skills just by other people doing a task. Okay, may take a while in case of fighting or blacksmithing, other than shepherding or foraging. But the point is, you learn. And you learn whatever the hell you think is important to you. The game makes no decision for you, it only creates a world full of opportunities. Perhaps you find a treasure chest and get filthy rich. Or maybe it contains some magic potions to bewitch a traveling merchant on the street so he sells the stuff for half the price. Or the chest contains a simple sword, or just saplings, or a skull. Well, luck can't always be on your side, and misfortune is a huge motivation to overcome any burden. So I mentioned the RPG part of it and how skills are hidden in the status screen until you actually use them. In other words, you don't see a pickaxe skill until you actually use the pickaxe. But this game contains no level up by experience function, not in the traditional sense. It is rather more the Elder Scrolls Oblivion attempt. You get better in things purely by doing them, observing them from other people, as mentioned earlier, or simply by reading about it. Yes, books are a good part of an RPG game. So if you are the Skyrim I use a sword and slash through the game kind of player, go ahead, do so. If you're more into sneaking and stealthing yourself in a fortress, perhaps even murdering a king to get his crown jewels, no pun intended, or just become the damn best farmer or cherry trees or pigs, go ahead, feel free to do so. It is the sole purpose of this game. I can already see Quill18 coming up with a Let's Play a Magician's World run in which he intends to become the leader of a bandit camp. Yes, you can interact with all sorts of NPCs in such a game. Or Roomba, who wants to become a master magician by exploring every little valley of the game. Or Gronk, who intends to just walk around the world collecting knowledge. Or Modi Operandus, who intends to turn a local forest into his personal vineyard. You? Maybe you plan on destroying a local kingdom just to make yourself the new king. Owning the kingdom's treasury chest sounds like a good motivation. Or perhaps you want to lead a traveling bandit crew? Go ahead. If the game is made complex enough, it should not be a problem. In fact, the game is only convincing if it is that immersive. Imagine all the nice pixel emotes, icons, and the custom-made music. Or maybe, according to the title A Magician's World, you would rather learn one of the whoever knows how many spells of the game. But be careful, magic is hard to learn and even harder to master. After all, creating fire to light your fire camp is one thing. Throwing fire through the air is a lot more difficult, one should think. Bewitching a merchant with a potion sounds nice, but how do you make him drink it? Perhaps you rather set a trap on the street, but then you need to learn how to set a trap first. And here lies the ultimate fun, traveling and exploring a world, learning how to use magic, how to carry weight on your back, building your own secret places all over the continent, perhaps building your own magician's tower in a forest. Or would you rather end up a farmer? Okay, why not? But who just wants to plant wheat and cotton? Perhaps you intend to collect and gather and buy all the seeds of all the mysterious plants around the world. I mean, since when does wheat grow in a desert? But something may grow there that you don't know. I advise you to be careful about just eating random fruits you know nothing about though. Perhaps there's a beggar around that you could spend it to. If he dies, you know it's deadly after all. Well, unfortunately there's no potion and ingredients book that memorizes it for you, so we'll have to keep your notes. Well, that means that your inventory contains a book. And something to write. Don't forget it somewhere if you don't remember the content. At some point you intend to marry? Convince a partner to do so, but be careful about marrying an elf and then bring her or him to an area where those are considered hostile, because social matters do, well, matter. In fact, why not trying to negotiate peace between two rivaling kingdoms? You might earn something out of it, for example the peace on your nearby farm. Well, or you try to manipulate both sides to go at war, watching it from afar as you calmly collect all the leftovers of the battlefield. It is entirely up to you. You are starting alone and with nothing in this world, more or less a subjective matter after all. And perhaps for your sins you seek redemption. There must be a church nearby to pay some gold. Speaking of gold, not every area uses the same currency. Some make their own. A clever blacksmith would use cheap iron to make coins and afterwards just put gold over it. Well, someone makes these coins with a stamp, how lucky if you can steal it. You get the idea. Yes, this game, once it's made random and complex enough, allows for whatever you want to do. Become a skilled fighter, a clever magician, perhaps a scholar. All the herbs and ingredients need to be used for the right purpose. Why not opening a shop? Hire people to sell wares, tend to your business or care for your animals while you dig ore out of a mountain. Go on an adventuring tour. Always to bring back valuable items, or just work on shifting the course of a river to your means. A village was drowned? Oops. A Magician's World clearly is taking the world and the open world approach serious. Whatever you do may have consequences. Even worse, whatever people around you do has an impact on you too, perhaps. Hunters that scare away a bear into your direction, well, sometimes hunters die. You know, create your own kingdom and conquer land and people and, of course, treasure. Build secret hideouts, create your own powerful armor or enchant a sword, pickaxe, hammer or just a skirt. Your choice. But magic can be quite dangerous. Calling out a demon just because you learned how to do it or an item allows you to do so may not be the wisest decision after all. On the other hand, what could possibly go wrong? Well, utter destruction of the environment or your death perhaps. By now you get the idea of what the game is like, why its open world approach is meant to be taken serious, and how some typical RPG elements, talking with NPCs, quests and of course leveling skills, are powered into it. But is a game like A Magician's World truly possible? Technically wise, it certainly is. Do we have the creativity to come up with all this? Obviously. Okay, some work is involved, but if you can spend millions of dollars into creating yet another pointless spaceship that just shoots at another spaceship, I assume a developer from indie to AAA, greetings Bethesda, could get enough money together to build this. The question is therefore, would people buy it? I would. Would you? Let us all know in the comments. Can this game become as big and interesting as I tried to point out? Certainly. Would it be something that people want to buy? Is it interesting enough to be played? Creating your own ideas and exploring and even changing a vast world full of opportunities sounds like an interesting challenge to me. However, it may become quite addictive to play it over and over and over, and that's the whole point. If we enjoy a game, we play it. A magician's world is interesting for its setting and style, despite the simple pixel style it may have. In fact, that even adds to the fun. Why else would people play a Stardew Valley, The Binding of Isaac, or even Dwarf Fortress? It's because the fun makes it valuable to us. If you are someone that can get lost exploring and learning things, changing a world by your own hand, well, I don't like this forest, so let's get rid of it and start a farming area here. This is the whole sense of a game that gives you freedom to do as you please. Yes, NPC interaction may seem repetitive after a while, but then again, once the game comes out, certain add-ons and DLCs may enlarge and enhance its possibilities. Whether an indie studio in a garage or a AAA publisher, a magician's world is possible. And interesting. That's what I think, therefore my game idea talk ends with your honest opinion in the comments below. Have fun and also state your game ideas. The more we collect, the more attention we create, the more these ideas have a chance to turn from idea into developed game. So comment as you like, add ideas to this game, your own game ideas, and of course, wait for next week. As a little spoiler, Pokemon is not the only game where you possibly catch things to let them fight. Well, see you next week at Game Idea Talk.